all these big fights that's coming out in boxing right now, the fans are requesting fantasy fights that they're talking about. They usually have Crawford's name next to him, whether it's Crawford versus Canelo, Crawford and Spence rematch, Crawford fighting Tim Tszyu, a lot of other names they've tried to put with Crawford recently, even Charlo, a lot of guys. But for some reason, they'll want to see these fantasy fights with him. But it's not like they really acknowledge that he's somewhat of the gatekeeper for big fights right now. I mean, a lot of these guys that y'all say that are faces of boxing, they're not fighting anybody. Then the guys that the faces of boxing, or the big names or pound for pound fighters, the guys they're fighting, you don't really know them until they actually fight the guy. When they fight the guy, then people say, oh, I know that guy is so-and-so, so-and-so. But most of the fans have never seen these guys before they actually fought these people. And the same would go with Terence Crawford. People say, oh, I don't know those guys that Terence Crawford fight. You didn't know who those guys were that people like Canelo and these other guys had fought before he fought them. So it's the same situation. But now we're in a situation where we have to bet. Well, not we, because I already know what the situation was. But Crawford is the fans are begging him to make the big fights, not their favorite fighters. Nobody's begging their favorite fighters to make big fights right now because they know they won't do it. Before Crawford hit the scene, people are still asking about fights that were on the table before Crawford even became a big name recently, like people have made him out to be. Even though I've known he's been big for years. But recently, they're putting the pressure on him. And because a lot of these fights haven't been asked about. Canelo was not asked about until after Earl Spence. I've been asking Crawford to fight Canelo for years. A lot of these fights have not been asked about until recently. So that's one thing I do know. A lot of these fights have not been asked about. They didn't think Crawford was at that level. But now it's turning into him. People just want to see him lose, which I already know at the end of the day. A lot of fans are fans of Earl Spence. Most of the fans were fans of Earl Spence. They thought he was going to beat Crawford. And a lot of people are still salty about that. I don't know why, but it's obvious at this point. I mean, I don't understand that. That's weird to me. Because people are like, yeah, they want to see him lose. All this Majramal fight is about, they want to see him lose. A lot of people not really saying, oh, man, I don't want to see the fight. Majramal, he only got a couple of fights. They're like, oh, he's a 54. He's a pretty big guy. Oh, they remind him of Triple G. Yeah, I want to see it. Majramal just fought recently, and people weren't talking about it. I seen him fight recently, but people didn't mention Majramal. So it goes to show, like, Crawford is the big fight right now. Nobody else is making big fights. Just is what it is. Majramal versus Crawford is going to be a better fight than Berlanga versus Canelo. There's no question about it. Crawford's really supposed to be fighting Tim Tszyu right now. But that's a whole nother video. He's supposed to actually be fighting Tim Tszyu. But that's a whole nother video, though. But at the end of the day, he's not getting the respect that he deserves because fans still want to see him lose. They're like, no, I'm not going to crown him right now because he'll go out there and lose. And I feel like he ain't that good anyways. This is why to the new fighters coming up, the guys who's getting a lot of extra attention before certain people like Crawford that never been undisputed, guys who's never been #1 pound for pound for years, never went up with multiple weight classes, never went up 20, 30 pounds to fight the best. I don't know where boxing is going right now, but it's becoming a popularity contest. People worry about sales. People worried about pay-per-views. People are worried about all these other things. Triple G never had to be held to these standards. And this is a guy, they say he can do whatever he wants. Couldn't drop Canelo one time. So a lot of this stuff that is getting, and that's 1 time in 3 fights. And I knew ever since the Mike Tyson days that the best fighter isn't going to get treated like the best fighter. You know what I'm saying? Mike Tyson wasn't the best of his era. But if you go back and look, a lot of people, they made the most money off Mike Tyson. So That's the name you hear about. Plain and simple. That's how it goes. Made the most money off Floyd, so that's the name you hear about. Yeah, Floyd is the best of his era, but still, that's the name you hear about. You don't hear about Manny Pacquiao's name as much as Floyd. At one point, people were trying to say he was bigger and better than Floyd, which happens in this era as well. But they did the same thing with Earl Spence and Crawford. So it's all just repeat history over and over again. But the situation that I get confused is, you have a guy like Crawford that goes up in weight like the fans ask. He fights who the fans ask him to fight. Their favorite fighters don't fight who they ask them to fight. Think of anybody's favorite fighter. They don't fight who these guys want them to fight. Or they don't try to. Only a couple of fighters in boxing do that. The rest of these guys, you got to beg them to fight every time. Oh, fight the best. You ain't the best then if you ain't trying to fight the best. We don't got to beg Crawford to fight the best. He would have already been fighting somebody right now. He's had multiple names linked to him. But it's just so many narratives that have been pushed over the last couple of years. And I think I'm going to start doing a series this week of just dropping multiple videos, just reminding people that all the things that people said about Crawford, oh, he don't deserve 70-30 or this or this, 60-40, or the split, he ain't A-side and he ain't done enough, even though he had all these multiple knockouts in a row. Sean Porter threw in the towel, so that's why Crawford's fight was close. All kind of stuff. No credibility all these years. He got no credit for the stuff he's done at all. So I don't really understand where the sport of boxing is headed. I don't know what they actually are asking for when it comes to certain fighters. Crawford is just at that level right now where they're not going to like him, so they got to basically wait on him to lose. And he's getting treated more like Pernell Whitaker than he is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd, people say, oh, they want to see Floyd lose. Not the way that Crawford is being asked to lose. The way they want to see Crawford lose, like Floyd got support after he beat De La Hoya or whatever. But from certain people, I was already a Floyd fan. But when Crawford beat Spence, it's still like, oh, well, you need to fight Tim Tszyu. You need to fight this guy. You need to fight that guy. It's like they're trying to fight. They want to find who can beat Crawford. They don't want to see Crawford be the best. They want to see who can beat Crawford at 36. Even though they haven't been requesting these fights for Crawford the last 10 years. Only fight they wanted to see was Earl Spence. They want to see who can beat Crawford. They don't want to see Crawford win. That's it. With Canelo, it's people that never said, man, I want to see who can beat Canelo. We've already seen people beat Canelo. We just want to see Canelo fight. But it's not the same energy with Crawford. They want to see Crawford lose. They don't want to see Crawford fight, because if they did want to see Crawford fight, his pay-per-view sales would be up. But it's all hate though. Nothing about it is, oh, I want to see skill. Then they'll say guys like Wilder can't box, he just knock people out. And Crawford goes out there, box and knocks people out, and it still ain't good enough. So the fans have been telling us lies for years about what they want, and Crawford gives them everything a fighter wants. After Crawford, I'm not asking no fighter to do nothing in boxing. I'm just being real with everybody. Crawford, he does everything a boxer wants you to do. After Crawford, I'm not asking no Devin Haney, no Shakur. I'm not asking anybody. Because the fans don't deserve it. They don't care about that. It's a popularity contest. And that's it. And that's the realest thing I ever say. That's all I got.